Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another SDGC review discussion. I'm Derek. I'm joined by John.
Hi, Derek.
Hi, and I'm joined by my buddy Finn.
Hello.
Hi, how's it going, buds?
It's going great,
know.
Derek.
Yeah, it's a long and tiring day, and poor Finn, you're preparing for hurricanes, so
Yeah, it's fine.
Meanwhile,
right.
I don't know what tone I'm going for here, but I sound like an anime character, so I'm gonna knock it off.
No, you don't, but that's fine. You don't watch enough anime to replicate those tones. We are here today to talk about Dead Rising, specifically the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster, which is available now digitally on PC, on Xbox, on PlayStation. It is not yet available physically. I don't think the physical release is until like November.
Is it available on mobile, Derek?
No.
Big question.
No, and never will be. It is not a full price release. It's $50 as opposed to $70. It is I guess the best way I would describe it is a Blue Point style remake of the original Dead Rising, where it is very much the original game mechanically with some minor updates running under the surface.
They've changed almost nothing.
They've changed more than you think. But it is still at its core. This is not like Capcom's had these Resident Evil remakes, right? That have been full from the ground up reimaginings, and Dead Rising is not that. It is mostly a very intense visual overhaul with some changes to like controls, AI, quality of life updates, things like that to make the game a little fresher. We received a code from Capcom to review this. We received a code on PC. So thank you, Capcom, for the opportunity. Before we go in, I kind of want to get like the ground level of all of our familiarity with the franchise. I love Dead Rising. I love the original game a ton. I love the second game quite a bit. I kind of fell less in love with the series as it went on. So it was very exciting for me to come back to this first game. Finn, what's your kind of familiarity with Dead Rising?
Got the day it dropped on the 360. Played 2, 3, 4. I mean, I would not call myself as big a fan as you, but I've been there since day one.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was gonna say you've been there since day one, and you've played every game. John, I don't think have ever played a Dead Rising. Is that right?
I like zombies.
Yeah, and like you tuned in for my stream that I did, or both of them, I think. So far, so you kind of get the concept of what the game is about.
Yeah, you're basically like Timu Matt Gates running around a mall.
Why would you ever say that about Frank West? Like, that is the worst thing.
I'm sorry, that's what he looks like.
No, it's the other way around. Matt Gates is Timu Frank West. Like, you're insulting Frank West instead of the other way around.
Oh my God.
But you're running around. So I watched your stream, Derek, and you looked fabulous.
Well, thank you.
While you were running around in your
my sundress, my purple sundress,
your sundress, and like a Lego head, I think it was. Running zombies over with like things like a lawnmower. I saw you fight Puddles the clown. I don't know what his name is, but I'm just calling him Puddles.
It's just Adam.
It's just what his name is. What?
It's just Adam.
Adam? That's so lame. That's so disappointing. What?
Every clown is just a dude with a job, John.
No, but in this game, he should have been like Puddles or Dribbles, or like some Dribbles the clown or Pogo, like some clown name would have really suited him better.
So
Doink.
So the concept of Dead Rising is that you, Frank West, photojournalist, you've dropped into this mall in a city that's gone under quarantine because he's trying to get the scoop on what's going on. And it turns out it's zombies. The town is overrun by zombies. And you are trapped in this shopping mall for 72 in-game hours as you...
It's a tale as old as time, really, Derek.
Yeah, as you fight off psychopaths and rescue survivors and make your way through zombies and try to survive. And you do this because basically everything in the environment is a weapon. Benches are weapons, TVs are weapons, swords you find on awnings are weapons, pistols on the mall mall cops are weapons. Obviously, you can pick up a box of soda cans and throw soda cans at zombies.
I actually really like the symmetry between Dead Rising and real life, Derek, because just as in Dead Rising, in real life, also anything you come across is potentially a weapon if you want it to be.
That's what Dead Rising's leaning into.
I will say so we touched on this earlier, Derek, which is like Dead Rising is almost like a prototype of the roguelike genre.
Yes, and I love that you picked up on that too, by the way, because I think that's since it's got the time limit, it's very easy to fail out of the story, and it's kind of a punishing game early on, so you can easily fail, and the game gives you the option to start over at the level and with the skills that you had already unlocked, making it easier to get further the next time.
So if you
sorry.
No, I was just gonna ask you a question. Like how long is an in-game hour in like real world big boy time?
Oh hell. That's a good question.
Look at you, Derek, coming unprepared for this review.
I didn't sit down with a stopwatch. I will say, so I beat the game in a single run because I'm familiar with the game, right? I put almost 10 hours into the game. But that's not...
You played it for 10 hours straight?
Not 10 hours straight, dingus.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood what you were saying, dude. I was like, oh my God, Derek.
I have about 10 hours of in-game playtime. And that got me through a single good, like I did the game, I got the true ending, I went into overtime, I beat the actual final boss, I rolled credits. But part of that is because like I know the game very well. I think as Finn was alluding to, and I'm going to toss back to him, for a lot of newer players, they're going to expect to replay the early parts of the game a few times to learn it before they really make it further in.
Yeah, and so the other thing that Dead Rising had that a lot of games at that time didn't, which is now kind of like a staple of the industry, is weapon degradation and durability and stuff. So like, yeah, you could have all these crazy weapons, but you use it X amount of times and oops, it's broken. So you know what? I'm going to come out and say it. Nintendo straight up copied Dead Rising with Breath of the Wild.
Wow, unbelievable.
See, it's funny though, because
such plagiarism.
The reason why I think weapon degradation works in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is the same reason why I think it works in Dead Rising.
You're going to make Finn mad.
Well, the game's designed around it.
I am not a weapon degradation guy. That's just me.
Yeah. I think it works better in Dead Rising, but I think the reason for that is that it forces you to constantly scramble for supplies in the mall, right? You can't find like a katana or a battle axe and just use the good weapon and carve your way through zombies. You can't just get a chainsaw and go at it forever. You need to save your better weapons for the situations you need them, which means sometimes you've got like, a fire axe and a katana and a baseball bat and a steel pipe and a hunting knife.
Can I dual wield chainsaws in this game?
No.
Oh God. Why bother?
No, the clown can. You cannot.
I saw the clown juggling chainsaws, and I got to tell you, that clown has like incredible upper body strength.
Yeah, well, Frank West famously not a chainsaw juggler. He's a cameraman. So.
He's not. He actually Frank West looks older than I thought he was.
Well, in the original game, he didn't look quite that old, right? In the original game, he definitely looks younger. That's a thing that I know I've seen some people get a little iffy with, is that Frank now in Dead Rising 1 looks
kind of... They aged him up a bit.
He looks kind of like the schlubbier guy that we're used to from later games, but like they were leaning into Frank being kind of a schlubby older guy from the second game. I think it's just them going, this is always how he's been. He's always a bit older, a bit washed up.
That's just peak. Frank.
Yeah, but one of the things that I really appreciate is I think the gameplay loop holds up as long as you understand that it's a game that is built on the friction, right? It is a game with a steadily progressing time limit where you can permanently fail objectives because you didn't get to them in time. It is a game where survivors, you're going to miss them and they're going to die, or you're going to get them and they're going to die on the way back because you didn't take good enough care of them when escorting them through the horde of zombies. And I think the original game is built around like that tension around making mistakes costly and then going, okay, but keep going. You know, you failed. Now what's next? Rather than throwing you to a game over screen. The biggest thing about Dead Rising is the presentation overhaul, because obviously it's you know, almost from
it
the
looks
ground
pretty.
up. So
it looks pretty.
A lot of remasters, you'll see like really pretty cleaned up models and textures on the same old animations. That's not what they're doing here. They are doing very modern, like completely redone animations. There's new like facial animation and lip sync that's way more complex than anything you would have seen back in the original game. It visually is not up to par with like the Resident Evil remakes, right? Let's make that clear.
Well, sure.
But for a $50 remaster of an Xbox 360 game, I think it's gorgeous.
Like I was watching your stream, and I mean, I think it looks good. I mean, for what it is, I think it looks really good.
Yeah,
like
new voice acting, right? New UI. I mostly like the new voice acting and the slight updates to characters' designs. It's hard, man. I love TJ Rotolo's original performance as Frank, and Finn. You could probably speak to that as somebody who played the original game, and
I mean, that's the thing is like. I'm with you though. I like the new voice too, but it's hard not to miss the OG.
Yeah. Well, and then Greg Eagles, right, is famously Brad, the DHS agent, and Greg Eagles has such a unique and memorable voice, and the new guy's doing a fantastic job. I don't want to put him down. It's just hard. I'm used to Greg Eagles. But the new cast is giving great performances. I think it's a super engaging game. It's a little on the difficult side. It's not going to be for everybody, because like if the idea of a real time, well, not real time, it's faster than real time, but like a time limit game where you escort people and there's weapon degradation makes you throw up in your mouth a little bit, buddy, Dead Rising is not going to change anything for you. But I think that there is a lot of magic to it as like a well-designed puzzle box that you are meant to solve as it progresses.
So I've got a question here, Derek.
Sure.
As somebody who has never touched the Dead Rising franchise at all, my experience with this game was me playing another game while you were streaming the game.
Yeah.
We've talked about, gameplay loop and visuals and stuff like that. What about the story? Like what is the story like? Where are the zombies coming from? Is it like a Resident Evil thing where there's like, oh, a virus got out, and somebody sneezed? And,
well, that's the mystery. Finn, I actually want to toss this over to you, if that's okay.
Sure. To what?
About John's asking like what how do you feel about the story of the franchise?
So it was kind of unique at the time, right? Like the story was told in bits and pieces, like as you go to try and rescue certain people, and you would, if you progressed enough in that like time frame, you would be able to fight certain boss enemies. And so like you weren't getting all the story all the time, but by the time you finished the game, like it all kind of came together, right? Like it was all in how you finished the case files.
It played well to the idea of Frank being a journalist who was there for the scoop, right? You're out of the loop. Everyone else knows a little bit of what's going on, and it's Frank having to, and again, what's brilliant, the fact that you can miss out on a story beat and then not be able to progress the story itself, but still be able to finish the 72 hours in the mall, right?
Yeah.
Because it makes it feel
which is weird, because for some people that didn't know what they were doing, like it could feel like the story was very disjointed.
Yeah.
But then again, this game was also designed to be replayed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were not supposed to just do a 72 hours and then dip. So figuring out the right pathing and leveling yourself up so you could actually make the progress needed to make and get to certain points within the time limit.
Discovering where like good weapons are and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like what kind of character is Frank? Like, is he like a heroic type, or is he like kind of a sleazeball, reporter who's like, I don't want to save anyone, but I'm in the mall.
I don't think it's
I guess
either.
I can use all the help I get.
Frank is And it took me a while to really appreciate Frank as a character and not just as a cartoon, because they do Flanderize him over the course of the series, right? As he becomes like a little bit wackier and zanier and more like, come on, pal, I'm too old for this. But Frank's whole shtick is he is a war journalist who, again, the meme line, right? I've covered wars, he's clearly been embedded. He's been in the shit. He's been in firefights before, as an observer. And he kind of comes in to this violence and chaos and sticks to the position of being an observer, right? I'm here to chronicle the events. But, he's not a bad guy, right? Like, things go to hell and he's trying to help people, but he's also not a heroic type. Like, he gets frustrated. He tells people, get the fuck over yourself. We're in a zombie infested mall. Just come back to the safe house. Right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of refreshing that he's a hero, but not a heroic type. He's an everyman in a lot of ways.
Okay.
And
cool.
I think that's what resonated between his kind of like everyman vibe and the ridiculousness that he's thrust into.
Yes.
I think that's what a lot of people. Yeah.
He's not like a Chris Redfield type, like big Jack guy,
No,
who's like, yeah, I'm going to punch a boulder and save the world.
Dead Rising. I was going to say, look, there's a reason that people were so ecstatic that Frank West started showing up in Marvel vs. Capcom games. So
he was in Marvel vs. Capcom.
Mm-hmm. He was also, I believe, in Capcom vs. Tatsunoko.
Yes, he was, I believe.
I don't even know what the hell you just said.
That was the Capcom vs. Anime one.
Right, obviously, yeah.
Wii exclusive, baby.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. I love that game's getting its love these days.
Right?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the original game, and it doesn't take much for me to say, hey, we've made the original game prettier. You can move and aim at the same time. The controls are a little more modernized. There's an auto save. There's now actual weapon like durability gauges on every weapon instead of it just starting to flash before it breaks. Little touches that.
I'm really upset actually that they made that change, because I know that like when I'm using a hammer in real life and it starts to flash, I'm like, okay, well my hammer's about to break.
Yeah.
So the fact that they removed that level of realism from the game was, I'll be honest, Derek, I was a little disappointed to hear it.
I'll also say that I think, and it's been a few years since I played the original Dead Rising, I do think that weapon durability has been increased across the board. I definitely found things lasting longer than they used to. Not by like leaps and bounds, but I know that katana used to break a lot quicker than it did. So
I will say that also Dead Rising, this is just a complete aside.
Sure.
Had some really cool, like, because again, this is before everything got relegated to DLC and stuff, right? Like,
yeah.
Dead Rising had some really cool unlockables. Like you could unlock the Mega Man Mega Buster.
Yes.
Shooting zombies in the mall with the Mega Buster, like stuff like that was just fun.
Well, and the idea of like finding more clothing pieces through the store to accessorize Frank, right, is so funny. There's a point where I had like a yellow hat on, like a goofy wide brim yellow hat, and a dress. And I walked into like a men's store and he puts on this yellow suit and suddenly everyone's making Curious George jokes in the chat, right? And like, there is a joy to like walking into a store in the mall and not being sure what you're going to run into, what useful and stupid things could be there, to help you.
You know what I did think was cool though, Derek, and I did not know this. Like, and if you told me this, I might like if I had known this, I might have actually tried the game. I learned that you can grab Chris Redfield's outfit and wear it.
Yes.
And the mall music changes to the RE1 save room.
Oh,
music.
that rules. I didn't know that actually. That's great. But
you didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Oh shit.
That's great.
Yeah,
there's a lot of bonus
costumes
costumes in the game.
Do.
So now here's where I'm gonna be a little critical.
Oh boy.
It's minor. The PC port has some issues. My understanding is that the PlayStation and Xbox versions do not have these issues, but the PC version has kind of rough texture pop in and like model like level of detail pop in. Sometimes it has some stutter issues. Like it's not the end of the world. And I'm certain that Capcom will patch it, but it's unfortunate that the game did not launch in a slightly more polished state on PC. You know, I would say, unless you are a diehard PC fan or a PC exclusive gamer, maybe grab this on like PlayStation for now. But, you know, if you're planning to grab it down the road, this will get fixed in 1 or 2 patches, I'm sure.
Sure.
So it was distracting to me.
Derek, here's my question for you, Derek. This is my last question, and it's a serious question.
Yeah.
Do you think that with Capcom kind of bringing the original Dead Rising back in an updated form, do you think that they are gauging interest in a new mainline Dead Rising game?
So Capcom is always gauging interest, right? They are one of the most careful about this. Like, they pay modern Capcom, the Capcom of the Resurgence era. You know, that's why they put out all these surveys after like every game comes out, right? They are paying a lot of attention to player feedback. I think that they're doing 2 things with this. I think the first one is, yes, they're gauging interest in what they want to do with the Dead Rising series, right? Do they even want to keep trying to bring them back? Do they want to just keep doing remasters? Do they make a new game? What do modern audiences feel about the design patterns of the first game that they strayed away with more with each release? I think all that's happening. I think secondly, Capcom's looking at this deluxe remaster idea as a potential future for more than one franchise, right? The idea of taking an older game and remastering it, but putting significantly more work into the visual presentation than you might previously have expected from a remaster.
If that's the case, then Capcom, you really need to gauge my interest in a revival of the Breath of the Wild Breath of the Wild. Yeah. The Breath of Fire franchise, Capcom, please.
Look, Capcom
did make a Zelda
Breath of the Fire.
We all wish Capcom would bring back Breath of Fire, or at least remake
Breath of the Wild.
First 3, specifically 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. But you know what? Like look at how Capcom's been treating their legacy franchises for a while.
Yeah,
they're doing a lot better.
The Mega Man collections for all the different franchises in Mega Man to gauge like interest. You know, they've been doing the Phoenix Wright ones, which everyone's speculating will lead to Ace Attorney 7.
Better. I'm going to point one thing out while we're just completely like, this is not even a review of Dead Rising. We're just talking about Capcom strategy. I'm going to point out my conspiracy theory, which is Capcom does currently have a team that is capable of making a well-made and high-budget turn-based traditional RPG, because they have partnered with Marvelous twice for Monster Hunter Stories, and they have an internal team that has learned from that experience. So I'm not saying Breath of Fire is getting worked on, but they do have a team who could do it.
Let's get on it. Let's get on it, Capcom.
But yeah, back to Dead Rising. Like it's a very solid remake of a classic game that arguably a lot of gamers nowadays haven't played because we're pushing almost 20 years.
Oh God,
a year and a half. We're
tell me that.
2 years away from 2 decades of Dead Rising, baby.
That's crazy to think. And the original game famously has not been made super available over time, right?
Yeah.
So I think for a lot of people, a lot of gamers these days, this will be their first opportunity to interact with the original game and see what the original concept for the series was like. And again, it's not going to be for everyone, but I think a lot of folks these days are going to find something special. Cause like you've kept bringing up, Finn, there's a lot of elements of the original Dead Rising that were weirdly prescient for their time.
Yeah.
So,
especially considering what genres are so big right now.
Exactly. So, does anybody have any other final thoughts on the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster?
No, I'm glad that the Dead Rising fans got what they wanted. I'm glad that you're happy, and carry on and do great things.
Just like zombies, we be eaten. So, thank you so much for joining us for this review discussion. Remember, you can catch SDGC live on Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/official SDGC to catch the live news show on all of the week's biggest news topics. Folks, remember, kindness costs nothing. Take care of each other.
Bye.
Bye.